We've all seen it. The honest employee working quietly and playing fair gets ignored, while the cunning manipulator full of charm and schemes climbs to the top. The merciful leader trying to do what's right is met with betrayal, while the ruthless one holds power through fear and earns loyalty of millions. We grow up believing that being good guarantees good outcomes. But in the real world, and especially in power, goodness can be a fatal weakness. Over 500 years ago, Niccolò Machiavelli saw this clearly. Living through the violent chaos of Renaissance Italy, he witnessed how political survival demanded more than just virtue. It demanded cunning, ruthlessness, strategy. In The Prince, he writes, "If a ruler always tries to act virtuously, he will soon meet with what destroys him among so much that is evil." In other words, a good man in a corrupt world is a doomed man. Machiavelli doesn't glorify cruelty, but he warns us, in a world full of betrayal and ambition, those who cling blindly to goodness often become victims of those who don't. So in this video, I will discuss some brutal but honest truths from Machiavelli's writings that reveal why goodness isn't always what it seems, and how it can lead to ruin if not tempered with realism. Keep in mind, this is Machiavelli's point of view, not mine. I agree with some of his ideas and disagree with others. Your opinion might differ too, and that's completely valid. If men were entirely good, this precept would not be good. But because they are bad and will not observe faith with you, you also are not bound to observe it with them. Let's be honest. Most people want to believe in the good in others. We're told from childhood, do the right thing and life will reward you. But Machiavelli would laugh at that advice. According to him, that belief is not just naive, it's dangerous. Machiavelli looked around and saw what many of us still see today. The world isn't run by saints. It's run by people who know how to appear good when it benefits them, and betray that mask the moment it doesn't. Think about it. You've probably seen someone keep every promise, act with honesty, and still get burned. Meanwhile, someone else lies, manipulates, twists the rules, and somehow wins. Why? Because Machiavelli says, human nature is flawed. Deep down, people are selfish, unreliable, and driven by fear more than by loyalty or morality. He wrote in Discourses that men do not know how to be entirely good, and that's not an insult, it's an observation. And if people aren't truly good, then why should a ruler be? He says that a ruler who trusts people blindly and keeps promises no matter what is ruined. Because in a world full of wolves, the sheep doesn't survive long. That's why he says a wise ruler must learn how not to be good. And this is where his most famous metaphor comes in. A ruler must be like a lion and a fox. Just one of those traits isn't enough. If you're only strong but not clever, you walk into snares. If you're only clever but not strong, you get devoured by wolves. So what's the lesson here? That being good in a world of bad people is a losing game, unless your goodness is backed by strength and your trust is protected by strategy. Men are, according to him, ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and greedy, and as long as you succeed, they are yours. But when danger comes, they turn against you. Even Nietzsche echoed this idea centuries later, warning that our modern obsession with goodness often disguises weakness. When morality becomes a shield for those too afraid to fight, it stops being virtuous and starts being suicidal. There's one quality often found in good people, generosity. But what many good people don't realize is that even generosity, when misunderstood, can become dangerous. And that's exactly what I'm going to explore now. It is wiser to have a reputation for meanness than to be compelled through liberality to incur rapacity. Imagine a leader who constantly gives, raises salaries, builds lavish projects, hosts grand festivals to gain the love of his people. At first, he's praised. The crowds cheer. His name becomes synonymous with kindness. But then, the treasury dries up, and when there's no money left, what must the leader do to continue ruling? Tax the people? Sell lands? Cut corners? Or worse, borrow and become dependent? Suddenly the same people who once admired him now resent him. As Machiavelli puts it, to continue to be liberal, the prince is compelled to burden his subjects, to be extortionate, and to do everything possible to get money. The result? Hatred. According to Machiavelli, he offends many and rewards few. His gifts, once celebrated, now feel like manipulation. His goodness becomes the reason he's hated. This is the paradox. The more he tries to be good, the more destruction he causes. Machiavelli is brutally clear. We have not seen great things done in our time except by those who have been considered mean. The rest have failed. In other words, the rulers who withheld generosity, who earned a reputation for stinginess, were the ones who built lasting power. Why? Because they had resources when it mattered. Now, does this mean we should all become cold and heartless? Not necessarily. What Machiavelli says is that strategic generosity is better than blind generosity. A wise ruler gives only when it benefits the state, not to win applause, but to win control, to use gifts as tools, not crutches. In his words, he will be more liberal when it shall be seen that his parsimony enables him to defend himself against attack and to engage in enterprises without burdening the people. In plain terms, real generosity is saving your strength for when it's needed most. So, before we applaud a leader's kindness, maybe we should ask, is it sustainable? Or is it the beginning of their downfall? That's the dark side of goodness. That can become dangerous, especially when it's in the hands of someone with power. One should wish to be both loved and feared, but it is much safer to be feared than loved. Most people think mercy is always good and cruelty always bad. But Niccolò Machiavelli, in The Prince, flips this idea on its head. In chapter 17, he gives a controversial but brutally honest view. Mercy, if not controlled, can destroy a leader, and cruelty, if used wisely, can actually save a state. He doesn't say rulers should be monsters, but he does say, if you're forced to choose, it's far safer to be feared than loved. Why? Because love is fragile. It's based on obligation, and obligations are easy to break when times get tough. Fear, on the other hand, is reliable. People may stop loving you when it's inconvenient, but they'll still obey you if they're afraid of the consequences. Think about that boss who's too nice, who lets deadlines slide, who avoids confrontation. At first, everyone likes them, but over time, respect fades. Deadlines are missed, rules ignored. Now think of the leader who sets strict boundaries. Maybe they're not popular, but things get done. Machiavelli understood this long before office politics existed. He uses a powerful historical example, the Roman general Scipio Africanus. By all accounts, Scipio was a great and honorable man, but he was too kind. His army rebelled in Spain. Scipio's soldiers and allies, once grateful, saw his kindness as weakness. They took advantage of it. Only when he finally used cruelty to restore discipline, then Machiavelli flips the lens to Hannibal, the Carthaginian general. Hannibal was known for his inhuman cruelty, and yet his army, made up of people from different backgrounds and cultures, stayed perfectly disciplined. And that, Machiavelli says, is what mattered. Without cruelty, he warns, Scipio's army broke apart. With cruelty, Hannibal's army held firm. But sometimes it's not kindness or cruelty that destroys a leader. It's the obsession with looking virtuous. And that's what I'm going to explore now. Something which looks like virtue, if followed, would be his ruin. Something which looks like vice brings him security. Have you ever met someone who seems like the kindest, most righteous person until the moment they're tested? That's the danger Machiavelli warns us about, not in people who appear cruel, but in those who cling too tightly to appearing good. Because in a world driven by power, appearances are everything, and rigid goodness can be fatal. Machiavelli's most unsettling lesson is probably this: virtue is a mask. He writes that many things which look like virtue will destroy a ruler, while some actions that seem vicious will actually bring him safety and success. He's not just being provocative, he's laying bare a brutal truth. In politics, what seems good often matters more than what is good. In The Prince, Machiavelli openly lists the most praised virtues: mercy, honesty, integrity, piety, and then tells rulers to master the appearance of these qualities, not their constant practice. Why? Because people judge with their eyes, not with their minds. The vulgar are always taken by what a thing seems to be. In other words, most people will never look beyond the surface, so rulers must learn how to look virtuous without actually being bound by virtue. He tells us plainly, it is well to seem merciful, faithful, humane, religious, but you must be prepared to change to the opposite if circumstances require. This is one of Machiavelli's most infamous teachings. Appear to be good, but don't be good if it gets in the way of power. And power, for Machiavelli, is what holds the state together. If you lose it because you refuse to deceive your enemies or punish rebels, your goodness was not a virtue. It was a liability. This might sound dark, but Machiavelli isn't encouraging evil for its own sake. He's warning that the world is not fair, and those who try to lead with unbending goodness will be destroyed by those who are more cunning. He writes, "A prince must be able to act contrary to the obligations of charity, religion, and humanity if he wants to preserve the state. Because sometimes preserving peace, unity, or survival requires hard choices." This idea anticipates Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of going beyond good and evil. Nietzsche, centuries later, would say that great individuals must create their own morality. Machiavelli said it first. He knew that leaders who follow conventional morality like a script will fall. Those who master the art of the mask, who can shift from saint to strategist when needed, are the ones who endure.